This is Kreskin, and I want to continue my movie reviews, which you folks suggested you'd like me to do certain movies with great curiosity and excitement. And having done Elvis and gotten such a good response, I decided to tune in on another movie that was only produced a year ago. And that movie is called Nightmare Alley, by a director, Guillermo del Toro. I believe that's the way I pronounce his name. But he is a brilliant director, has had successes in the past. And he has readapted the original screenplay to the version of Nightmare Alley that you can now access today. It is a very mesmerizing movie. I sat here in my office by myself, turned on almost a 2-hour presentation, and I want to tell you, as much as you feel like getting up and getting a glass of wine or soda or what have you, I did not move from the screen because I was concerned that I could miss a key remark from these people that are characters in the story. They're all evil. All of them, unfortunately, are evil. Are some less evil than the others? That's a very difficult thing to say. This is the second film, as I said, and the first adaptation came out in 1947. Now, there's a reason why it becomes even more intriguing, because when you watch this movie that obviously was set in the 1940s, it's dealing with carnivals. It's dealing with carnivals in the United States and all over the world. Carnivals were extremely popular sources of entertainment, but at the same time, it was a much more difficult business to maintain. The money you took in, you had to take in almost cash when people came to the show to watch the play or listen to it or see the scenes and what have you. And what do you have as key characters throughout this movie but psychics? Psychics who talk to the dead, who, with the money that you hand them, communicate with people that some may have lost in their lives and want to talk back to again. And when you look at the setting in the 1940s, you realize how much more difficult it was. You weren't handing in some credit card and filling out a form or so forth. You were handling money, and you were going to hear them talk to you about people who have died. How? How did they do this? Well, Gresham isn't that quiet about that. By having eavesdroppers amongst the crowd coming in, you can hear conversations, and the information can be given back to the so-called psychics who are purporting to speak in some way to the dead. These carnivals were traveling this country, and it was not an easy thing to even live this way. By the way, unfortunately, the F word is used rather frequently in the movie. I don't think, even though the movie was done only a year ago, that it's absolutely necessary, but I would certainly avoid having youngsters watch the movie at this time. But they were overhearing the people working for these mediums, fortune tellers. They were overhearing conversations made by people who were tending to their own personal affairs. So you can imagine if they started talking to one of the mediums who apparently went into a trance and started describing some incident in your life. It transfixed these people. And these psychics, quote psychics, were taking advantage of any opportunity from which they could extract. By the way, one of the most fascinating touches, and I think it's a brilliant piece of camera direction, is that in the movie there are a number of scenes where people are walking through long hallways They can be outdoors. They can be part of a building and what have you. And you see the distance of the hallways. You begin to think that these stories somehow are far beyond just the immediate. It just suggests, and it's a brilliant touch on the part of the director, it suggests that there's far more in-depth and mysteriousness to what was taking place. The key message in the movie, as you watch it, is not to trust any of these characters. Oh yeah, you'd have some good, you'd have some that are fine and mean well and what have you, but I didn't find any of them in any part of this movie, because in the end, the reason they were making all this money or taking money from strangers is they were purporting to speak to the dead and advise them what their lost aunt, mother, boyfriend, child was advising them upon. So you can't trust, and don't try to guess the outcome of the film. This is, if I were to describe this and how it mesmerized me, this, folks, is an absolute masterpiece. A masterpiece of evil. And oh, by the way, while things are resolved in the end, detective stories end in this way, this is a masterpiece of evil. And the evil wins and survives. Because when it is all complete and this brilliantly written and acted story ends, it doesn't end. You know that these individuals are continuing with their lives and their lifestyle. You're going to be a fan of some of the characters in the story, but no, none of them are good. None of them are good. The film is a nightmare, which does not end when the film is completed. And yet, Nightmare Alley is, in my opinion, and I suspect I'm sharing this with all of you, this movie is an absolute masterpiece.